All right, here we go.
Are we going to have a blooper reel?
We're going to, Mom, I know I joke about this. Can I talk about you snoring? All right, let's get the giggles out. Sorry. So being Abby's brother, so you're younger, you're 3.5 years younger than her.
Mm-hmm.
And what's that been like for you?
It can be frustrating at times. A lot of small things that just make me feel not super valued, but I know it's because of her autism, and it's not that she doesn't actually love me.
That's something I've really worked on, is being able to understand the other viewpoint. It doesn't make it any easier for me, and it's not like I can just snap my fingers and be like, okay, I understand you.